just about most of our participants. We still have Kara Boyd, who is with the National Black Farmers Association. She said that she was going to be on, so give her a couple more ticks just to see if she can jump in here or not. I'm going to have Denise send her a reminder. I sent her one this morning, so to see how things are going. But while we're doing that, I just want to give everybody and let everybody do a quick elevator introduction to who you are and where you're at as far as in the group. This is for those who understand and know. John Jamerson with Legacy Taste of the Garden. With most of us, we've been together with this group since most of us started with Dr. Boyce Watkins' Family Mastermind group. And so we've been into that for a while, working together as farmers across the nation. So basically, I'm for those who, everybody knows me, but I'm just doing this for Jamie. And Dr. Jamie's going to be our number one presenter today. She has an opportunity for us as farmers. And so this is what we want to do is to be able to let everybody know. So anyhow, John Jamerson with Loud Station, Indiana, the last remaining African-American settlement in Indiana, also represented in the Smithsonian African-American Museum, as my father-in-law was the last remaining African-American farmer who's still farming family-owned land that they own pre-Civil War. That's, my wife, Denise, down there, Denise Greer Jamerson, my son, DeAnthony, who's also carrying on the lineage. He's also on here. And so that's our mix. We've been working together trying to help out the farmers across the nation, be able to connect together and be able to, especially our farmers, come together and be able to gain a footprint back into the farming community. So I'm gonna jump up here to Jetty, AKA Son of Godzilla. Give your brief introduction, and then we'll go around and then we'll have Dr. Jamie present what she has for us. Go ahead, Jetty.
Jetty, I'm in California, like desert, and
we need you to speak up or get closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm Jetty. I'm in California, on the California-Arizona border in Blythe, and we have a few acres out here farming, trying to get a CSA going, and that's it.
Well, tell them what your product is.
Well, we do vegetables, various sorts. I'm looking at some okra, tomatoes, goji berries, dragon fruit. We're just trying to get into doing a lot of tropical stuff out here in the desert. You can actually grow tropical fruits and things out here, but because it's so hot in the summer. Anyhow, I also have been growing cannabis for a collective for the last 10 years, and out here in California, we're trying to get into that, but of course they're making it very difficult for us to get into the business. So that's why we all have to work collectively. And even this morning, I was thinking we need to get a group of attorneys that go around from place to place in this country, city to city, and help these people, such as myself, get through the legal morass that these city councils are trying to put in our organizations and the options that I'm doing. So they from the city to the state and the federal level, they don't want us to have the money. He who makes the money makes the rules. So
okay.
So that's it.
All right. Gabriel.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Name is Gabriel Martineau. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Fairly new to the group, but I'm heavily into aquaponics and have a unique idea for my system that I've already tried out in a trial that's done very well using, instead of just freshwater fish, I'm using shrimp, saltwater shrimp. So I'm interested in building that into a commercial scale system, and I'm hoping that I can get there with this group collaborating with you guys.
Okay, and we have Andromeda. She's son of Godzilla's wonderful daughter. So she's out there working with him.
Hello. Yes, we're working very diligently to get this plan going and get this future started.
Okay, thank you. We have Davita Wingfield.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Davita Wingfield, and I'm a resource development specialist, aka community outreach specialist. And I work with organizations to help to take them from zero to funded. And I work with a scope of organizations from institutions to sometimes startups, not as many as I used to, and some celebrity folks. So I've been doing this for 25 years, and I hope to provide some technical support to the group as I can.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go with Darrell, aka Chef Joseph. He is partnering with us with the farmers and Davita, working out an opportunity to do grants with some of the products that he's doing, where we're working to produce the ingredients that he needs, even the CBD parts of it that he's going to be infusing into his drink. So go ahead, Darrell.
Yeah, my name is Darrell, and I'm the owner or CEO of Chef Joseph's Kick Sauce here in Virginia Beach. And we started doing kick sauces, which is the same thing as hot sauce, but to me is better flavor. I've been in the business about 13 years, and then we just recently got into cold pressed ginger drinks. And so from that point, it just really took off a lot. And we have 8 more flavors coming behind it. But basically, the flavor we started with was ginger lime, and looking to add hemp to like a whole nother, not a whole nother line, but maybe like a ginger pineapple hemp, or something like. So I'm just getting into this thing. And as far as the CBD oils and hemps, but I know that'll be a pretty good win-win for the vegan community, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually maybe get into body butters, possibly. We're not quite sure yet, but that's what I do. And we also specialize in recipe development. So doing seminars, workshops on if you need to develop your recipe, step-by-step process of how you take it from the kitchen to becoming market ready. That's it.
Pass it to my beautiful wife, Denise. Just give you a brief introduction.
Hello.
All right. I guess you'll have to.
I'll come over there.
She's gonna come over here to talk.
Hello, my name is Denise Scrooge Jamerson. My family has a legacy of farming, African American farming for over 200 years. I grew up on the farm. Looking forward to working with everybody and taking this to another level to help out all African American farms and hopefully save it from extinction, which is what we're looking at as farmers. And I feel as though the hemp will be maybe new lifeblood. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone, and thank you for coming on board.
My number one son, DeAnthony, might as well come over here so we don't get the echo. You want to put your face in there? Go for it.
Yeah, hey, I'm DeAnthony Jamerson. Just been out here working to build a legacy with my family. Happy to be a part of it. What you guys are trying to do. I just want to say, hey.
Tell them some of the projects that we're doing in Indianapolis and Evansville.
We're just working to, help educate the youth and just our community on the importance of being able to grow your own foods and the nutrition values of the foods that you're growing, things like that, bringing fresh produce to our communities, knowing that we're in bad areas like food deserts and things like that. That's pretty much it as far as what we're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then we have, I believe last but not least, Daytron. Daytron. He's out.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good deal. My name is Daytron Branch. I also have my brother, K-Son Branch, with me. We're partners in this along with my father, Dr. Alfred Branch. We are a hemp processing exchange company. We process basically hemp farmers harvest, and we process it into floral material to the market. So right now, one of the things that we're looking to do is to actually process everything and get it out to the market. If there are any buyers in the market, we definitely want to make sure that we connect with them, along with helping out the Black farmer, and make sure that you want to go to branchfarms.com. That's PH. branchfarms.com for any additional information or to link up with us. And our whole goal here, as I spoke with John last week, is to make sure that we get more African Americans in the actual hemp industry. So we're located in Arkansas, conveniently, Pine Bluff, Arkansas to be exact. And we'd like to connect and do whatever we can to enhance this group and our Black farmers.
All right. Well, thank you. I believe we have, I'm trying to count. I'm wanting to say, and Jetty, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking of probably a good 4, maybe 5 other cannabis and hemp farmers that are working right now in that area in our group that aren't represented here. I know Quinn in Michigan, James Hardaway in Texas. We have, trying to think of the brothers from Jamaica.
Trevor and Spencer or something.
Yeah, Trevor and Spencer. And it seems like there's someone else. Who was up there in Northern California? It seemed like there was somebody else that we had up there.
Well, there's brothers in Texas again, but I don't.
Yeah, I guess that was part of what James was doing with those brothers up there. So we have several networks that are in the cannabis area. We also have Tamika Peoples, who is she's in the product end of it, where she makes shirts and clothing lines, sportswear, and things of that nature out of hemp. She had said that she was going to be on, so I don't know if she's going to make it in time, but I'll give her a little brief bio out there. So if she does come in, we'll at least know a little bit about her. So with all that being said, I had the pleasure of receiving a phone call from Michelle Martin, Boyce Watkins' right-hand person, the other day, and she's like, I got somebody I want to introduce you to. And I was like, all right, well, hey, give me the good rundown. And I was hoping she was on here because I wanted to congratulate her. She and her husband, their family has done a racing program for inner city youth in Philly for years. And she just sent a thing out saying that Will Smith is going to do a documentary on it. So I wanted to throw that shout out for her. But anyhow, she introduced me to Dr. Jamie, and so I'm going to allow Dr. Jamie to give her brief bio and then give some information as to why we're here today. I want to make this, just say this so that Dr. Jamie also understands where we're at. Our thing is we're not in competition. We're in support of one another in this group. We are trying to come together as a co-op, so to speak, to see how we can benefit every one of us across the nation. We're too small to be trying to fight amongst each other. So we got to work together. So with that being said, here we have Dr. Jamie Bracy Green, Ms. PhD herself. Go ahead. It's on you.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Jamie Green. Stop smiling. I told you to just call me Jamie. I am a future philanthropist like the rest of you all. And I want you to know that's where I'm coming in. That if we're going to save our folks and save our communities, we have to start as we're going to raise enough wealth to become philanthropists to control our destiny. All right? So I want you to understand where I'm coming from. Old school, very old school. But what I do right now in my government job is I am the director of STEM education at the College of Engineering here in Temple University in Philadelphia. And so what I also want to add my shout outs to my brother, Anthony Martin. He is my brother from another mother. We have known each other, he and I and Michelle, for the past 12, 15 years almost. And what I've been privileged to be able to do is help them build their STEM program at the Urban Youth Racing School into something that produced a pathway for Black boys, particularly Black boys, to move from, you know, the fun of go-karting into engineering. And so my middle son, who graduated as an engineer, came through that process. My youngest son, who just graduated 2 weeks ago as an engineer, came through that process. So my thing is to produce Black folks who know how to rebuild society: food, energy, water. You guys got it? I'm all about food, energy, water. So my area of emphasis, what people call me for around the world, is to work on two things: engineering in urban agriculture and computer science in urban agriculture, to produce food, energy, water. So if we stay in those spaces, what I wanted to share with you was our very interesting conversation. I stopped by to see Meech and Anthony over the weekend and was sharing with them that I am now licensed at a university to grow industrial hemp. Now, I wanted to give you an understanding of what my understanding of the agriculture field is. So for the last year and a half, particularly the brother who's doing aquaponics, we've been moving an aquaponics urban ag initiative across the state of Pennsylvania. Agriculture is the #3 industry in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so to make it so that I could get, and I don't know if you have ever heard of the Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Oh, yeah.
So I was playing a Sam Greenleaf play and sat in on some meetings where I was listening to what was happening with industrial hemp. And if you step back and you look at what happened with medical marijuana, this is the play that people make. They will start out in every state with giving a research pilot, some funds for a research pilot to a specific group of universities to work on either, in this case, we'll talk about medical marijuana and cannabis, right? Which is cousins to industrial hemp. So every state in the United States got the memo that they're going to create recreational marijuana. So to start the process, they funded certain universities to do the research on the pilots of what kind of strains could grow fast, which kind of strains could self-populate themselves, and then who would be most likely to be able to grow and take them to market. So from the research pilot, which might be like 100,000, I just want you guys to understand the game of why these universities have to be part of our game plan for the short term until we leave them alone. They come in with the funding from the state. Then they do their little research pilot. Then they put that out into a small select group of growers, right? And that's what happened. And then once they realize that there might be a market, so they're growing to test the market while they're moving the policy to allow them to actually put it in the market. You have to know that they started this at least 5 years before we knew anything about it. Because if you replace the recreational marijuana with what's happening in the United States now, Black folks got locked out of most of the cannabis growing, right? We are looking at right now the fact that medical marijuana, for one crop, the average revenue for that is $1.1 million for a good crop of medical marijuana. The average cost for a crop of maybe soybeans or wheat is somewhere, it's below $5,000. So 1.1 million versus 5,000, you understood when we got locked out of medical marijuana, that was going to be a problem, but they started that 5 years ago. I would share with you that they started the process for industrial hemp at the same time, but nobody knew how to grow it. A lot of people know how to grow medical marijuana inside their house using aquaponics. A lot of people have been growing cannabis for a long time. What they don't know how to do is grow industrial hemp, which is a much stronger and sometimes more challenging plant to grow. The challenge is we are now at the place where Black folks can have a role in industrial hemp if we understand what we're growing it for. But we also understand it's still considered and classified by the DEA as a Category 1 narcotic. So the way they're going to keep us out of this, I'm just giving you the bad side, and then I'm going to talk about the good side. The way to keep us out of this is to say, well, listen, we had to give all of these medical marijuana growers the opportunity to grow first. And now the only people who should be able to grow the cousin plant should be these same medical marijuana people who are mostly white folks, right? So what's happening is you have other white folks fighting who didn't want to grow medical marijuana. So you have a group of white farmers who are pushing to say we should be the ones who get the money from through these universities to test these plants to grow them ourselves. You guys follow me? Because I just want you to understand what the industry is doing right now. So right now in the United States, industrial hemp is a thing, but it's not really a thing fully yet, right? There's still, until they release the narcotic code on it, it's still illegal to grow industrial hemp unless you're making sure you have the research component through a university certified in many cases that says that it has less than 0.3 THC, at least in Pennsylvania. It might be different where you guys are. So having said that, I followed the money all the way to central Pennsylvania. And the reason Pennsylvania is important in this conversation is because Pennsylvania was one of the top producers for industrial hemp when it was being grown in the United States. So they saw that farming is dying. The average age of a farmer here in Pennsylvania is 64. There's no backfill. Black folks don't want to go back in the field. So what's the middle ground for food, energy, and water is urban ag. Taking experts who know how to grow in the rural area and bringing them as subject matter experts to grow inside these big warehouses. The reason somebody like me is important to the conversation is I received the message from NASA that says you're going to have to grow food that uses less fresh water. The climate is changing. There's not as much fresh water. So the issue is, can you grow salt-tolerant plants? So the brother who's using shrimp, I have a team here that started doing aquaponics on shrimp 6 months ago. So it does work, right? So, but does that mean you can grow hemp in salt water inside a building? That's where people are going. So right now we have white folks buying warehouses all over the place to set up indoor growing, to bring farmers in, white farmers in, to tell them how to grow food inside. No one has done industrial hemp inside. So that's what I have the license to do. And that's what I'm sharing with you all, that we need to be very strategic and very fast. Our plants go in, we've set up our aquaponic system inside an indoor space to prove that it can actually be grown inside. If it's grown inside, then we get certification for the seeds to press out there, because it's very hard to get industrial hemp seeds that are high quality, right? And you all probably, as growers, you already understand. The growing is only one part of it. It is the processing that meets everything. So come back to Pennsylvania and the opportunity that just happened. My governor's team asked me to come into central Pennsylvania, which is two things. It's where the Klan was born in Pennsylvania, and it's also where black folks fighting to get a space. You see y'all laughing, but so I'm riding in where the Klan is to talk about how to teach black folks how to grow food. So what's happening right now is, when I got there, this is how far into the memo they are. There was a team, a white surgeon and his two sons had gone to buy a $1.5 million processing device, engineered processing equipment. They knew I would understand what it was when I saw it. And my team said, we need to buy one of those, but they're manufactured in Canada, right? And so we were putting together investors to buy this processing plant, because you can grow hemp all day long, but if you can't process it, it's going to die in the field. And it's hard to process. So depending on the seed you grow, we're talking about seeds for fiber, seeds for CBD oil, seeds for animal feed. You know, you got to know which seed you're growing for what. So when I got to meet with these gentlemen, they had already received the money to buy at least one of these processing pieces of processing equipment. So I said, well, we want to buy one anyway. They said, well, we'll sell it to you. And I said, well, how are you going to sell it to me if we got to go to Canada to get it? They said, we bought the plant, the manufacturing plant in Canada. They put $30 million into this already. So I want you to understand that even though people are acting like hemp is not really a thing, nobody puts $30 million in with the support of their government to bring an entire manufacturing plant to an entire state where they have proprietary ownership of a device that separates industrial hemp into 3 different products at the same time. Not one product, 3 products at the same time. So what I'm suggesting is that if you guys are interested, this is like an introductory conversation. I'm happy to have a WebEx to walk you through a PowerPoint about what's happening, where the money is, and how to have a co-op or cooperative relationship where we need to figure out a way to acquire some of those pieces of equipment, or we're not going to be really able to do this. Because what I've learned from agriculture in this last 2 or 3 years, particularly urban agriculture, even growing the food, it's a non-starter. You are not going to generate wealth growing food inside the way we all started. The number 1 crop, according to the folks doing the research on this, is flowers. You want to make money, you grow flowers in aquaponics. You don't grow food and expect to sell it, enough of it. So we want to grow food, we want to feed our folks, we want to make sure people have access to food. But to become a philanthropist, to be able to put $5, $6, $7 million together, we have to say we're processors and distributors and manufacturers of products on the other side. And so I'm happy to share with you where the trends in the market are, where the opportunity is to invest as a group or get investors together. These guys already offered to sell me 4 of those devices, right? So I have to come up with $8 million, right? So the state is working with me to say, okay, we'll start at 1, see if it works. So you don't understand, I'll break that sucker apart, figure out how it's made, and remake one, and then we white label it for us to use across the country. And then we set up relationships with industry partners who want to buy the stuff. If they want it for fiber, that's what we need to grow. If they want CBD oil, and I'm gonna share this, that CBD oil is the majority of the money. So if medical marijuana makes 1.1 million for a good crop, a very strong crop of industrial hemp for CBD, which is a different plant, right, may make about 50 to 60,000. I just want to share with you, it's nowhere near as lucrative as medical marijuana. The problem with medical marijuana is the cross-pollination that's happening. People are actually losing lots of crops. So growing outside is actually not as beneficial as they thought it was. And I think the other problem with medical marijuana, I think they're going to lose the market very soon, because by the time it becomes recreational, you can go down to Home Slice down the street and get a hookup, and you don't have to buy something at the dispensary, right? So industrial hemp, though, it's a hard reality. White folks are pushing to make this the industry of the future for farming. When Trump put the tariffs on China, part of it was to slow up the importation of industrial hemp to give the different states, Arkansas, the Midwest in particular, a chance. But you got people pushing out seed for urban ag across every major city in the United States. And so again, you're going to see white folks buying up real estate for warehouses that ain't nobody used before. So this is more than just farming. It's a real estate issue. It's a manufacturing issue with farming at the heart of it. And it can be something as small as saying, look, my job over Son of Godzilla's job is, look, let me put up the plants specifically for the CBD oil. They're a short bush crop that can be grown inside, right? It could be that, whoever's out in Arkansas and John, you in Indianapolis, you guys are putting up for fiber because we've already got a preset market that wants to, Ford Motor Company wants to buy your fiber because it's such good quality to use for manufacturing their cars, or Techrete wants to use it for creating drywall, right? So the industrial market is one market. The product market is another market. The animal feed is another market. And that's the kind of conversation I'm interested in sharing with you all, if this has been interesting enough. So my 5 minutes are over. Any questions?
All right. I mean, that was love. Now, yeah, that was 5 minutes overload, but I love it. I just want to make one disclaimer so that you can understand where I'm at in Indiana. Indiana was the capital of the Klan for many years. So that's where. So just to let you know where I'm at, I moving down here to the southern part of Indiana. I had to often go back to the city just so I could get an idea of black folk. So but that's the love of it. But anyhow, I think what you're saying is excellent. I believe that with what we're working with and what we're trying to do, and like I said, we have a number of farmers and different organizations and stuff that we work with across the nation that I think by working with you and some of the things that we've already been in the process of implementing and working together, networking together, that this is the core, because this is where we are coming from with what we're doing here with Legacy, is going into our communities and showing our youth that, one, you don't have to worry about getting a job from someone else, because there are opportunities for you to be able to become your own boss. And in farming, in agriculture, are many different ways to be able to get in. So that's where we're at. So this falls right in line with that, being able to create industrial facilities in our community that benefits our communities, hire from our communities, and supports our communities with all the different aspects of things. So as we have Chef Joseph Darrell down there that is in the food processing part. We have, like I said, Tamika Peoples, who's also in the products from the clothing line and things of that nature. And we've discussed some of the different things as far as the industrial parts about hempcrete and what is used for automobiles and things of that nature. So with that being said, we'll go around Jetty, aka Son of Godzilla. I'm sure you being in that industry, you got a question or two.
I don't have any questions, but I really enjoyed your presentation, sister. Every last minute of it. We have a little where we will be able to build that building. You gotta get the funding, but hey, we're working on that. Everything you were saying, I've been doing all the research. You're right on target. I appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you more about this. That's all.
Okay. Ms. DeVita?
Yes. Let me see. Well, first of all, I just think it's quite an honor to have such a well-versed person to address the group today. So thank you. It's just wonderful to hear from you. I do have a question, as usual, in terms of innovative shortcuts. So in other words, well, like sometimes I study legislation or something like that in terms of what Black folks have done to advance. And what I have found is that there has been a simplistic genius in terms of shortcutting the system. So in order to make a large stride, like in terms of education or integration in education or something like that, or civil rights in other areas. In terms of innovation in urban agriculture, which I'd love to hear more about, the definition of urban agriculture, the trends, that type of thing. But in terms of advancing urban agriculture so that it positively impacts the Black social economic base, what do you see? Have you come up with something? Do you have a philosophy? I'd love to hear it.
Well, first, thanks, sis. It's a great question. My philosophy emerges from my respect for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, my respect for Leon Sullivan, my respect for the work that the new guys on the block, like the Boyce Watkins of the world, are trying to advance. My philosophy is that we are a communal people by genetic disposition, which means that, it is not in our culture to not be concerned about each other. We may be not in so by training, I'm a cognitive psychologist, so that you understand. And in my training, I've learned how to understand and produce people who can reproduce civilization. It is not my job to produce an engineer or computer scientist. It is my responsibility to produce somebody who can press restart when the climate changes and this mess is a hot mess. So I've produced work with over 4 to 5, almost 5,000 students, most of them Black males, in the last 10 years to help them move into programs like, Michelle and Anthony's. I've started those programs. So my thing is, I'm a serial startup entrepreneur around engineering new Black people who can engineer a new future. So I don't know how much time and space I have on this planet left, but for the time that I have left, the reason I started my conversation, my philosophy is that we have to start from the space of being philanthropists. That's just not a financial philanthropist, it's a spiritual philanthropist. It's also a cultural philanthropist. We've got to say that our responsibility is to look at the way these folks are messing up this world and be prepared to be solution providers to that. So you may have me on the inside of an institution breaking down the science of what they're doing. And then the secret is, like I shared, wherever we are as a team, we have to find somebody, a spook by the side of the door, to be the infiltrator, to go in to find out what research did they get money to get related to agriculture, related to environmental sustainability. Who's got the money inside that institution to work on how the roads are going to be made? Because again, everything from how the roads are going to be structured are going to be huge as the tornadoes wipe out the center part of the country. Do you understand? So people are operating at a different level. We as a people, our history of where we always get shorted out is that we focus on the tactical. We lose strategy. So there's strategy, there's tactics, right? We focus on the tactics of the day-to-day living. So yes, we want to teach our people how to grow stuff. We want to talk about entrepreneurship. We really need to be talking about why we have to have the skills and the mental health to be prepared to either save our planet for food, with food, energy, and water, or be prepared for 3 generations from now to go off this planet, because that's what I know they're working on right now. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos going to Mars, that's not an accident. They don't think that they can replace the water that they've destroyed on this planet. So the movie The Martian, where he figured out how to grow food up in Mars, our children have to be trained, our people have to be trained. This is a day-to-day and a future, right? So the shortcut, get inside these institutions, let's do our homework. We can go online and find out what's the research they've been funded for. That's public information because it's public dollars that funded them. So a tactic is to whatever state, the nearest university to where you live, go online and find out who on their faculty has received money in food, energy, transportation, anything like that around, in agriculture, around research. That's the shortcut. Establish that relationship, and then again, the first pile of money for any of these new initiatives always goes to a pilot. Once they fund the pilot, it could be 50,000, 100,000, 300,000. NSF normally comes in with 300,000. So if somebody got a fund around, it's called the nexus. In the federal government, for funding for STEM education and for and agriculture is STEM, it's called the nexus. Food, energy, water is called the holy nexus. So you find out who's received money for the nexus. We figure out who they are. We come together and we look them all over, see if there's any Black folks that we can identify. And then we figure out, okay, well, can we be a part of your research study? Because once you do that, that's the shortcut to saying, oh, we're the legitimate actors in this process that's going on. Because once they receive that pilot, the next level of money, $1 million to $3 million, comes into what they do, what they call scale it out. So once we know how the game is played and who's got the funding, you'll figure out where their area of priority is going to be. So hopefully that answered your, I hate to be long-winded, but I always like to give context so we may never see each other again.
No, I'm a contextual thinker. That's why I had to, and for some reason I have a great aversion, almost a hatred for thinking outside of a context. So I appreciate your communication method. Is very effective for me. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Any other questions, Davida?
Yeah, but I'm gonna hold it until another meeting. But yeah, yeah. definitely. But I love her. I love her shortcut. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and you know, with us here in Indiana, we work with Purdue University, Purdue Extension, as they call it, and so we're working with them in those same areas. Matter of fact, we've received a SAR grant for what we're doing in the inner cities to be able to, like you said, begin to legitimize ourselves to be one of the players into this. So, and we're touching 3 communities in Indiana. Davida, go ahead.
Oh, I would like to mention to Dr. Jamie that I have influence, I guess you would say, I have very strong influence with the Department of the Curry School of Education at UVA. So I can write what I want, I can influence however I want, I can research whatever I want, but of course I don't know if that's a huge school. And then so my influence may or may not sure, but I'm sure there's a possibility that other large departments at UVA I could. So if you have any brilliant partnership ideas, because you're with Penn State, right?
Nope, I'm with Temple University. Penn State's a partner. Mm-hmm.
Temple. Okay, wow. Okay, all right. Still Ivy League there. top tier anyway. Yeah, just want you to know that is available. I'm making that resource available to you, and I don't know what resources you can make available to me, but I certainly do have a passion for for our folks. So
let's just definitely find out who has you want to go inside the research in engineering, in horticulture, in agriculture, and just find out who got the most recent grants and what those grants were about, and if any of them were for the Nexus. And we have the right to call NSF. So if we think that this is worthwhile, so I'm going to go back again to aquaponics is as old as time. You can go back, ancient Kemet had aquaponics, right? So what is happening here is that hydroponics for the vegan or vegetarian community, and I think the chef could speak to that if he was still around, hydroponics has been where everybody has been going, right, on the indoor side. The problem with hydroponics is that it's such an extraordinary use of fresh water. They have to put all nutrients into that water to grow. Then they have to throw that water all out with all of the nutrients thrown out with it and start all over again. The reason my team went towards aquaponics because it's an enclosed system and it uses, maybe 90% less water, and the nitrates that are required are coming from the fish. So you have a dual, you have a vegetable and a protein being grown. But again, this is to teach our people how to grow. We should certainly be doing this both indoors and outdoors. My goal is to see if I can pick up 1 or 2 warehouses and set up the indoor growing. But the idea is how do you teach our folks to use aquaponics with sensors that monitor what's happening in the system, that on an app that comes to our phone, so we can say, okay, we need to change this, we need to modify that. So it's very, very tactical. It's not that hard to do. It's just getting in the rhythm of knowing that this is a different way of growing. It's a different way of producing. And I think that's really where our secret sweet spot really is, to fly below radar, to stay DL until we pop up and suddenly some of the best hemp in the world is coming out of our centers. Some of the best food in the world is coming out of our centers. And the best way for the food, for us to know what we're producing, like I said, next week I start the trial runs on the seeds for fiber. Can it be grown inside? It may not be able to be grown inside well. It may be that we have to stick with the smaller CBD producing oils. I'm just saying we need to find a niche in the market. I'm not necessarily sure I want to go after CBD. All white folks are going after CBD. But if we want to, we need to figure out, can it be grown inside? I think it can, because you can grow marijuana inside. You can grow, you can grow.
Yeah.
You can grow.
Hemp's not that too far of a cousin that it would be that much difficult. Yeah, and with our training program, we have 3 or 4 different training styles on teaching kids how to grow. We have a bucket system. We have a hoop house. We have the regular planting outside, and we're looking at working with Gabriel to bring in his style of aquaponics, and so that like I said, there's grants and stuff out there, and that's what we're looking at. How do we get in to be able to position ourselves, as you're saying, to be able to all of a sudden emerge in an area, and by the time they recognize who it is, it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so that's where we're at. So let me go on down the list. Andromeda, you got any questions?
I do not have any questions at the moment.
Okay.
But I'm enjoying what I'm hearing. I'm very excited, Dr. Jamie. You have a lot of information that has helped put pieces of the puzzle into a much clearer perspective for me. So thank you.
I'm trying. I'm still learning. So y'all can drop the doctor at any time. I made white folks call me doctor. There's a line, right? My kids have to call me Dr. Mom. Other grown folks, that was my price to be able to get in the room.
Right.
So if you could call me Jamie, I'd really appreciate it.
Will do, Jamie.
Thank you.
Gabriel.
Yeah, I've been biting at the bit to say something here. Jamie.
Yes.
Pretty much singing music to my ears as far as studying aquaponics for the last 12 years and having implemented 3 different pilot systems. And this is my backyard systems now. This is nothing large, but having successfully grown, marine shrimp and produce at the same time, my next goal or my next step has always been, can I find a warehouse environment where I can do this on a larger scale?
I got one for you.
Okay, great. I'm moving up to, what is it, Pennsylvania?
Well, Clark Atlanta is trying to repeat what I'm doing down there.
Oh, even more music to my ears. Wonderful. I mean, that's this is exactly why I joined this group, for being able to collaborate and find things that I haven't been able to find online. Like I can go to LoopNet and find 100 empty warehouses in Macon, Georgia.
Right.
But I don't have the resources to acquire those properties.
That's right.
So, but I mean, there's so many warehouse properties in Atlanta, Georgia that aren't being used, that are probably going to get converted to lofts and contribute to gentrification of the city.
Right.
That it kind of hurts my heart that I don't have the ability to say, hey, wait a minute, what can I turn one of these into a food producing warehouse, to where I can provide jobs for the community that live right there.
Bruh, can I share something with you? Because I want your heart to be at ease about something. Mm-hmm. And I want all of you to understand what I know to be true about growing from the perspective of where this thing is going. We cannot grow enough food with enough margin to hire ourselves and our people to be sustainable. Because if you have what we have here in Philadelphia, you have something like Produce Junction, where they're importing cheap Mexican fruit and vegetables, and people are paying like $1 for a bag of corn. So I want you to know there's certain crops you can grow inside that are lucrative. What is really, if you want to grow inside and you want to make money, and you look at AgriList has the data on urban farming, right? It's flowers. The flowers that people buy at the flower shop is the #1 producing crop right now, in general. Then come microgreens, are almost at the bottom of the list. We normally start with microgreens, and then we focus on that. So certain things can be grown inside, certain things cannot. But if we don't move to, your heart is going to be made whole because you can hire people, because we've moved towards manufacturing something. And that means we've grown something that we can sell raw. And that's why I'm high on the industrial hemp. Either you can manufacture something out of that product, out of one of the 3 different products that plant produces. So knowing your mind, you're going to be able to more likely sell somebody on investing in a warehouse build out. To me, I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm still learning and growing. But it seems to me, looking at what these white boys are doing, they're not trying to grow food inside. They didn't put $30 million together just because they wanted to grow food inside and feed the community. I think that's part of what we do as an incredibly important piece. But the money side of it to sustain it is on a different set of crops. And it could be flowers if you want to do flowers, if you don't want to do industrial hemp. But the kind of people are buying flowers to put on grave sites for special events. That's why the flowers are such a huge draw indoors now, and people are looking at that. So I just want you to know, we need your expertise. We have to have your aquaponics is it. It's not hydroponics. It's aquaponics. So I just want you to be, whatever I can do for all of you, I'm a resource, but I just wanted to give you that hope that I think that you are absolutely right. I just need you to focus your crops on what's a sustainable revenue generating crop for you that will allow us to grow food to feed people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm on the same page as you as far as, I don't have to grow food. I think that's typically how I got introduced to aquaponics, is that everybody was growing tomatoes and cucumbers and whatnot.
Right.
And that's what drew me to it. It was way more efficient than the monocrop production that our society deems as what we should be eating and how we should be growing. Right. Which goes completely against nature. So my thing was, okay, I can grow 2 different items in the same system and conserve water and energy. Why aren't we doing this, and why aren't we doing this on a large scale? But I think one of the biggest challenges and this goes back to your point, one of the biggest challenges with aquaponics is that, to feed the fish, say tilapia, you actually spend probably as much money in feed, and you get very little protein or
that's right.
The food conversion isn't very good.
Right.
Tilapia. So you're spending just as much money as you'll hopefully get, or you'll break even at best with that sort of a species. Whereas, with shrimp, I figured out that there's certain euryhaline type species out there that can, in their early stages of life, they grow up in the mangrove forests, which is where the salinity is actually quite low. And I should have had you guys sign a non-disclosure agreement, because I'm telling you my secrets now. But basically, shrimp can change their salinity levels, and they can adapt to different salinity levels.
Right.
And so, and everybody loves shrimp here in the U.S. We import what seafood is the second largest import behind oil. Mm-hmm. And everybody loves to, go to Red Lobster and get those those small little popcorn shrimp and whatnot, and everybody's selling that stuff. And like you said, finding a niche market. My thing isn't necessarily, I don't want to process the shrimp personally. Mm-hmm. So I would be selling it whole. But I digress a little bit, because I want to get the most bang out of my buck when it comes to developing this system, because it's not just about growing the food. It's also about empowering our communities to have the skills and skill sets, because at some point people need to grow. If they want to be independent, they need to know how to grow food, period. I think if we continue to rely on these monocultures, who's to say that climate change won't destroy everything at some point? And, we have to figure out a way to get food. And I think indoor growing is going to be a large proponent of that. It doesn't always have to be aquaponics, but that just happens to be what I'm interested in.
Look into Vanna white shrimp.
Huh?
Look into Vanna white shrimp.
Vanna Mae?
Vanna white. It's a high profitability shrimp crop that our distributors here were telling us that they would, if we grew that shrimp, if we produced that, they would pay us top dollar all the time. So just look into that particular species. I don't know what it is. The chefs in Philadelphia's restaurants love it. So
yeah, it's actually white leg shrimp is what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. If you go, I don't know if I can just post my website, my Facebook website. I've got some pictures of my pilot system that I ran.
Okay.
It has some pictures of the white leg shrimp that you're talking to. I think that's the Latin name, Vanna Mae Little Paetnius, something like that is the Latin name of it.
You got it.
There's a huge market for it.
Okay.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on board. You really gave me a lot of hope. I've been really discouraged with not sure where to go next. But if Clark Atlanta is getting into this, man, I would love to get on board if possible.
And if they don't, we're not going to worry about it. What I'll do is ship my seeds down. We're going to test some seeds. And you can help do the trial runs for everybody about what are the best seeds to use to grow inside. Because again, no one, all the folks that we called, I didn't have them sign an NDA either because they're not going to do it. So the idea was no one has tried to grow inside these types of strains of industrial hemp. And so because I'm a researcher and I have a license, I can say I have licensed partners who are also doing part of the grow.
All right.
So we'll talk some more after we do this little presentation if John can help us set it up. Sure. And what I'll do is again show you some of the stuff we're working on and where I think, I would love feedback on what should be the next steps. And I'm being very clear. Sometimes I am democratic and communal, and other times I am waiting for people to figure out what they want to do. I just want you to know I don't have time to wait. So I don't think our people have time to wait. So sometimes I'll say sorry. I'm just letting y'all know up front. Sometimes I'll be saying, oops, sorry. But it never would be because I intentionally did something to not benefit the group. But I've had enough expertise and years on this planet. Sometimes you just got to go.
Right. Well, that's excellent. I'm trying to hold myself back. I want to hear from everyone else. We're going to jump to Darrell, Chef Joseph.
He was there. I saw his face, and then he disappeared. I see a picture. There's that smile.
Oh, you on mute.
Give me 1 minute. Skip me, and I'll come back to the next one. I'll be ready.
Okay, no problem. We'll go to my number one son, DeAnthony. Are you there? You got any questions? No. All right. Denise?
I don't really have any questions, but I'm extremely excited. I just happened to be with my father yesterday. He's 81, and he's been farming. That was his life, and he did the soybeans, corn, and wheat. And in talking to him yesterday, it was him being ahead of the game that took him to the top of the game in what he did. And that's kind of what Jamie was saying. We gotta be able to get in where we can, under the radar and see what they're doing in order to stay at the top like they are. And just an example that he gave me, and I'm not saying that it's good or bad or whatever, but he was one of the first people around here that used the anhydrous for his corn. And what he was getting was triple what other people were getting. And he took that and he helped the other Black farmers around here to get the bumper crops too. So I'm just saying that as encouragement and saying that, like Jamie said, the name of the game is being in the game and getting to the top of the game and bringing and helping our people stay in the game and be on top of the game too. So like I said, I'm just excited. I'm ready to work. My mind is running everywhere about, all the African-American farmers that are still here and how we can help continue to sustain their family and legacies through possibly, this hemp industry, and educating them on it and just ready to go with it.
All right. And Mr. Processor himself, Datron. And hold on just a second, Datron, because I think I muted you. Let me unmute you. All right, go ahead.
All right. Is there any reverb or anything? Am I coming through clear?
You're good.
Good deal. Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say that this is a refreshing group to be in. And especially, what everybody's been saying. Jamie, I mean, it was as if I were talking to myself in the mirror, just listening to everything that you were saying. Just like I told John and Jetty last week when we just had our little brief intro discussion, you were on point with everything. So a few key points that I want to kind of let you know what happened in Arkansas, let you guys know what happened in Arkansas is when we looked into this, I was pretty much ready to go from the point the farm bill was signed. I was literally waiting on the state
Right.
to put rules and regulations in. The U of A was the only program working this. We are alumni from Arkansas Pine Bluff, a historically black university. I could not get any processor to sponsor me as a grower. We literally had to go out of state in order to do that. The black farmer was being locked out. Once we went and got a processor, I said that we're going to be processors like we intended to do as well. But there was a step process to do that. So we got our grower's license, then we got our processor license, and now what we're doing is we're going around to our black farmers, unapologetically, by the way, and we're letting them know, hey, we're going to help you get your license. We're doing their paperwork. We're putting together the research plan and everything to make sure that these black farmers are put in a position to be successful. One thing that's happening here is that we have consultants coming down from Colorado and Oregon and even Kentucky, like vultures, and they're approaching these black farmers. And what they're telling them is, you know, hey, we can get you 60 to 80 grand a acre, and we're going to charge you 10, 20 grand up front. Nobody has that. So what they say is, well, we'll take 15 or 20% of your crop. Well, that's a loser. That's pretty much cutting into your profit margin. Right. So what we're doing is we're having to go behind these guys and kind of educate the farmers on what's going on, how this crop will be successful. And by the way, floral for CBD is definitely the way to go. For fiber is good as well, but I don't see that being the greatest outdoor. I think that we do need to start growing fiber in indoor facilities because it opens you up to multiple varieties. Everything that you said was really, really on point. So one thing that we found out is we have our alma mater right there in our city. So we're working with our university right now to get them some funding as well. You know, like you said, the primary universities, the state universities, so to speak, are the ones that are locking this down. And we knew up front. I tried to contact them, and it was a blessing that they didn't respond back to me because I would have been locked in to just being a grower and not being able to process, and I would have had to adhere to their research. So that's why we decided to stay independent, let them do what they're doing up there. We don't want to touch y'all money. We don't want none of y'all money.
That's right.
We have a university that specializes in agricultural. It was founded as an agricultural university. And we want to make sure that you guys can apply for the funds, but we got a processing facility right here to provide educational opportunities and paid internships for the ag students in those departments.
That's right.
Because this is the future. Like you said, this is the future.
This is.
You know, a lot of people say that CBD, the reason the CBD market is going up so much is because this is what they've actually been using to help AIDS and HIV patients.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. I haven't dug into that research any further, but we do know that there have been strides in that area. So that's why we have to do this, not only for food purposes, but we have to help out the black farmer.
Yes, we
or
do.
else these guys are going to come down like vultures, and they're going to manipulate them and make them buy all this equipment, and then they're back in debt again, and then they don't want to grow it.
That's right.
So we have to make sure that we educate our farmers. As a processor, I can tell you that there are different varieties that perform better than others. We're still, you know, kind of ahead of a learning curve. We have a consultant that actually works with us as well on the processor level. And, you know, they've been really, you know, kind of shoring us up a little bit in some of the areas that we need shoring up in, as far as what to look out for and how not to get taken advantage of. But we do understand what we're doing. Let that be known. But yeah, you know, we have to reach out and help each other. If we don't do that, we fail, because, like you were saying earlier, people aren't putting $30 million into facilities for nothing. And we have been locked out, and we cannot be locked out. So what we're going to do is continue to write down everything that we're doing as far as working with the farmers in the area, so that we can pass it along to places like Indiana, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, you know, Georgia, all these other states where it's becoming new and they're just getting their license, like Illinois, because I guarantee you they're going to leave our state and go there next.
Yep.
So we have to position ourselves for that.
They're coming through.
I'm sorry?
I said they're definitely coming through. No question.
Oh, yeah, they're absolutely coming. And what we have to do is we have to speak with these farmers and educate them, because if we don't do it, they will. And then you don't have a shot, because they're locking them into contracts that they can't get out of. They can't even discuss it with you. So we got to start meeting with them first. One of the things that we're going to do is hold forums for our farmers that are in these smaller towns that are typically small Black towns. And they know where they are. So we're trying to beat them first.
Right.
But we're excited about this opportunity and where we are in this whole hemp industry. We're staying in our lane. We're not doing medical marijuana. We want to concentrate on the hemp aspect of it. That's our lane. Anything that we can do to help out as a resource, or, you know, whatever we can do, reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we can assist you in any way. But thank you guys so much for allowing us to be a part of this. And we hope to have more processors nationwide and so forth as well, because if we don't lock that down, we're going to be just like the farmer in the cotton gin back in the day. And you will get screwed out of pricing.
You sure will.
But what we have to do is, we cannot screw over these farmers.
That's right.
We must be accountable, and we must also treat them right, or else they don't have a reason to do business with us.
It may be time to have so the Council on Foundations for the United States in the Southeast had a meeting, and Ford Foundation and I want to say Living Cities Foundation, they all came in talking about how they're funding Black farmers to start growing specific crops for biofuels, right? So I want you to know that industrial hemp is certainly for manufacturing, but there's an opportunity if we convene, have these foundations, maybe write a small grant to have a conference around Black farmers and the industrial hemp industry. That's where you can convene people at one time, because again, these folks got the memo years ago. The number one policy that's threatening even our current processors, and Brad, thank you so much for your affirmation and your new information. But what's happening in Pennsylvania, to Davita's point about what's the policy, they are putting in place a policy that's already running across Pennsylvania's legislature right now to say only medical marijuana growers should be allowed to process industrial hemp. They see the writing on the wall that they're going to be locked out when folks start growing hemp, medical marijuana in their house. When it becomes recreational, anybody can grow it. So what they're trying to do is say, those of you who are growing industrial hemp should not be allowed to process it because of the risk that it might become a hot crop. We minimize that by putting it inside to grow it. So it limits the opportunities for cross-fertilization or pollination. But again, the policies check in your states to see if there's any agriculture policy that's being advanced quietly right now about who gets to process industrial hemp. Because if they take that away from us, then we've got locked out again. So it's like, from what you're saying, what I'm inspired to suggest is maybe have a couple conversations with USDA, the rural farm folks, to say, look, we need a convening around this industrial hemp thing and y'all should pay for it. And I have had Jim Barham over at USDA, who's on the rural side, talking to me, say, hey, Jamie, now he has to call me doctor, sorry. He has to say, Dr. Jamie, listen, can you transfer some of this stuff we're learning in rural areas, particularly around production, to an urban setting? So they're open. it's time. We just haven't knocked on that door yet. So I would just suggest that look at the policy in your state to make sure the medical marijuana people aren't trying to lock us out already so they can get that revenue. And then let's talk about other ways to convene to talk about the ways you can use this industrial hemp crop. Because I have had 8 visits in the last year from Nigeria. They're coming here, they're farmers, because the desert is encroaching on their farmland. They have to go inside. So they've come to Pennsylvania looking for help with new opportunities for growing, but what they were doing was growing crops for biomass for biofuel. So the United States has industrial energy partners that have gone over to the continent to buy up land to put in plantations for a crop called jatropha, and now industrial hemp is potential biofuel. So the oil from the industrial hemp would be used to supplement, sort of like ethanol on this side, we're now doing it as an oil on the other side. So there's a possibility that we can grow industrial hemp and export it outside of the US.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Even with China, with the tariffs, we know that Trump did that to actually set up the farmers, especially the southern farmers. And you were absolutely right. Well, we had to go to the heart of hemp country
Right.
to get going. And they got warehouses everywhere. And everybody has a brand new house. And we talking about in the hills. So you are absolutely right about that. We do need our own facilities. And what we need to do is buy the land and just build our facilities, our greenhouse facilities from the ground up, as opposed to buying older facilities.
Agreed.
So I'm on board with that. You are on point. I think everybody's on the same page. This has to start with the nucleus.
Yeah.
And that nucleus has to start a ripple effect out to our farmers that are on the ground because they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a good start for us. And Branch Farms wants to be involved in any way we can.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys.
That sounds good. Part of what our view of the strategy is also to connect with the old homesteads that our people have, because we have so many of our elders who are transitioning on, and so the old homesteads are being passed down, and the people of today are looking at it. You know, nobody goes back to the homestead. You know, we got 13 acres here, we got 30 acres there, so let's just go ahead and sell it for the money. But I've been approached by several people. As a matter of fact, I got 3 or 4 people in Pennsylvania that have old homesteads upwards to 100 acres, 2 or 3 of them that I would like to introduce you guys to. They're part of our group, but they just, for whatever reason, didn't make it on today. But that's another strategy that we're looking at utilizing to be able to introduce this to the old farmers, to be able to bring in the new farmers. My father-in-law, as my wife said, when I first mentioned this to him, which, you know, knowing how he is and his mindset, I just used the what I call the Jedi mind trick. I just subtly say things about it. And, you know, every time I mention it, no, you're going to go to jail. You're going to do this. I said, well, you know, just consider it. And I don't say anymore. And, you know, a month or so later, I'll mention it again. And so as my wife said, she was in the tractor with him yesterday and mentioned it to him. And she said, he didn't say no this time. He said, that's something to look into. So I know that he's been listening. Here in Indiana, they just approved it for this year. Next year will be the first growing season here in Indiana. So they're already putting out licenses for hemp for processing. Kentucky's right below us, and a lot. Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. just had a phone call come through. I didn't want to mess up my reception out here because I'm in the country, so I have to have a hotspot. But anyhow, what I was saying is Kentucky is around here considered the expert on growing hemp because they've been doing this process for about 4 or 5 years now. And so I've been in close contacts with them. And one of the main things that I noticed was the first couple years, there was only 1 or 2 processors. After about the 3rd year, they went from 1 or 2 to about 7 or 8. Then the next year, they went from 7 or 8 to about 15. And then the next year, they're up to about 30 or 40 processors. So one of the main things that I noticed is that, one, you don't have processors to begin with when you first start this out. But once people recognize that processors are needed, then it is, something that comes on. So one of my thoughts was knowing how they treat us around here, that they would take an opportunity to figure out a way to block us out, as Datron had mentioned, where there's like, oh, well, we're only allowed to bring in so much crop, and so we're at our capacity. So what you got really can't use, and so then you're outside on that. So my thing was, the first thing was hey, I'm putting in for a processor to be able to get a license to process and everything. So whatever it is that we can do here in Indiana to help with this process, we're open. One of the things that we've been talking about is diversifying our mind as to what it is we need to do to be able to fulfill our destiny. And so, although we started out with produce and things, or my father-in-law was a crop grower, row grower, but we, as we said, we have to look in the future as to where the direction of things are going, to be able to jump ahead of that, to steer things in our direction and be able to take off and grow from there. But in the process, we also understand that over time and time again, if you can't feed yourself, then you're subject to someone else's control. And so it doesn't matter how much money you got. If I'm sitting there with food and you sitting there with nothing but money, at the end of the day, I'm going to walk out with the money because you're going to need to get that food. So that's one of the things that we don't want to be blind to, because as I said, the only thing that will make somebody go into an empty Superdome with no lights, no restrooms, no nothing, and just sit in there in the sweat and heat with a bunch of individuals you don't know is when somebody promises you food and water to be able to go in there and survive. And so we don't want those situations to happen again. So we still, in the back of our mind, need to create that train also for the produce and things to be able to sustain ourselves, just to be have that ability to be independent when all else is said and done. But I do agree 100% that hemp right now is that cash crop that we need to get into. With that being said, I'm opening up to anybody else who may. Gabrielle.
Yeah, so I think Jamie, you mentioned it briefly, but one of the things that's really integral to us being able to, I think, survive is the indoor growing is important. And I'm not anti-outside growing at all. It's just that indoor growing, it presents an opportunity of biosecurity that outdoor growing does not give you. And when I say biosecurity, I mean like companies like Monsanto who can grow a crop a mile away from yours, cross-pollinate yours with their crop, and then all of a sudden, they have a lawsuit against you. So the indoor growing gives you somewhat of a buffer so that we can keep our niche market and not have other folks coming in and trying to steal it easily. So I just wanted to bring up the importance of growing indoors from that aspect as well, from the biosecurity standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this is Branch. I want to piggyback on that. He is so correct. What we also have to do is we need to teach our farmers that, hey, nobody else can spray around you, and we have to show them how to put agreements together. So when they do tell a farmer that has a crop that is, segregated from theirs, however, they're spraying it, it's just not a gentleman's agreement, okay? Put this on writing that you will not spray. You've been advised not to spray around this, as well as what the gentleman was just saying. If you have industrial and I already have my plants in the ground, you are putting my plants in danger. So we have to also teach them how to do that, because what I see happening is you get a black farm, you get a few black farmers in a small area. Who's to say that, someone won't ambush you, pay somebody to manipulate them just to grow all that crop around them, industrial or whatever, to cross pollinate. So we have to also look out for situations like that. Me growing up in the South, and you guys knowing how it is in every area, I'm always reminded of Elaine, Arkansas. I'm reminded, which is the 100th anniversary. I'm also reminded of Black Wall Street. Anytime we put together our own commerce, there's an opportunity for it to be destroyed by others that are just basically hating and don't want to see you do well. So we also have to look at protection as well. We have to be ahead of that, or else our farmers will not benefit from this at all. So just a few things that, we do have to go indoor. We have to be outdoor, but we also have to go indoor so that we don't have to worry about the weather elements that are out there and all the bio stuff that's out there that could potentially destroy the outside crop. So I totally agree with that as well. I'm on board with that.
I totally agree too. I want to weigh in with so when we're talking about sustainability and we're talking about growing indoors, I just wanted to make it clear from our team's project called the Think and Grow Farm, right? You got to think about what you're doing, and you got to learn, and you got to farm, right? So the idea though is going indoors is both a full indoor build out engineered growing environment, what we call controlled indoor agriculture, right? So that's one phase. The next phase is having a traditional greenhouse. You're going to have a greenhouse or a hoop house, if depending on where you are. And then the third piece of it, you have to have all three legs going. You have to have the outdoor grow. So what's happening is the biosecurity is extraordinarily important, but I also have to bring in, when you're growing indoors, the cost to run the electricity 24/7 to provide the lighting arrays to keep those plants growing is an expense. And so that's why it's so important to know the three different ways. What is the profitability of growing? What crops have to be grown indoors to make it worth your while to pay a $2,000 electric bill, a $5,000 a month electric bill to grow inside? That's why you got to have all three ways to do it. But the biosecurity, one of the ways that I'm looking to protect, think, and grow is, again, to do the trial run on the seeds for this growing season so that we are very clear that somebody like Monsanto can't come in and say, oh, some birds accidentally pollinated your crop with our stuff that's, patented. You used it, so now we get to take your crop, because even though you're innocent, we have legal right to lay claim to your crops because it's using our seed. So that's why things like blockchain technology to track where seeds are produced and where they come from, and that they are certified to, this group. You have to. This is what all the white girls have done in Colorado, in Vermont, because I talked to them too. They say, well, how'd y'all get into industrial hemp and CBD lather and all this other stuff? They said they got the initial research grant. Some of it was self-funded to come up with their own specialized patented seeds, so that they could then track where the seeds go. So if somebody says, well, you cross-pollinated, like, no, this is the original strain of seeds that we use. You got to own your own seed, non-GMO, however we want to define it, and then protect. By having your own seeds, you can then better sustain the biosecurity. Because again, big farmers are disappearing. The large commercial farms that want to take this on next, nobody, we got a 6-month head start. I'm saying that. That's what I feel. There's a 6-month head start still to convene a group of farmers, talk to Black farmers about what's happening, identify who the research is. I'm just tossing out some of the action steps that have to be taken. Identify the 2 or 3 places that we want to have a warehouse. We want to have obviously one in Branch because they're already processing. Obviously one in Indiana because you guys are in the hub. I have to have one in Pennsylvania. So we have to have some processing using these new processors that, again, my friend down at Branch is called the Hemp Train. The device that's coming into Pennsylvania that's going to knock your device out is called a Hemp Train. And it produces 3 different products at the same time. So that's the kind of processing we want to be in so that we're in different markets at the same time. But we got to, again, we have to raise the money to buy the device to put us in processing to protect our space. While people like me are doing the research on the seed strains that are patented, that we know have the technology to can track the chain of custody of those seeds, all the way to the ground, to indoors, etc. So that was, I just wanted to build on, make sure we understand the differences in the 3 models, indoor and the cost of running that indoor versus the cost of growing in a greenhouse versus the cost of growing outside. That indoor grow, the electricity is high. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that.
All right, that's good. We got Darrell, who's got his hand up, wanting to ask a question. Go for it.
Yeah, so I've been listening in, and which is great. And I just had a quick bite to eat. And as I walked out the store here in Virginia, to my left there's a tobacco for less store that's selling cigarettes hemp, or hemp with cigarettes, or cigarettes with hemp in them. And I'm like, wow, that's that's the first time I know I've seen that here. So if it can get here like that, it's just interesting. But again, we're looking to do, and this is not about myself when I speak about my company, because I hate to say it's just I'm really trying to help the community provide jobs. I'm already providing jobs here now. But one of the interesting things that I would like to maybe speak to someone about is how to add, or what would be the best hemp versus CBD oil to add to ginger drinks, or even coming up with a line of hot sauces, just say for standard, a hot sauce or barbecue sauce with hemp, and possibly give a cut of these sales back to the Black farmers. So I'm looking to try to help, but at the same time, this is about ownership where I'm at, okay? Because I know as this stuff starts expanding, you don't want to be in the lease situation and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I'll say for that. Thank you.
Okay. And I want to say this to Daytron. I don't know if he's trying to say something down there, but we had to mute you. We were getting a little feedback there for a second. So
you are unmuted.
Daytron, did you need anything to say?
No, I was. You're right on point with that. With going into the beverage sport, that's going to be a big thing. I got a Marco's Pizza joint out in Texas where they sell CBD in their pizza. This thing is going to go all over the place. It's not just going to be in food and beverages. There's opportunities for everybody. What I will say is we need buyers upstream.
Right.
We have the growers now. We have processors. We need manufacturers. If we don't have Black manufacturers or buyers upstream, or if we don't have Blacks in these pharmaceutical companies and other manufacturing plants that are doing the procurement for those companies, then we're going to be in trouble. So we have to set that up and make sure that that's established upstream as well. As a processor, I have to have buyers up front in order to pay my farmers and float it until I get it to the manufacturers. I do have a couple so far, but I like to have more. And I like for them to be brown and Black, bottom line. Because if we don't pump it up to them and give them volume, then they would just be a manufacturer in name only, just like I would just be a processor in name only. It's not about just having that position, but it's about putting them in a position to be successful so that we have a consistent supply chain from the farmer all the way up to a produced product. So I appreciate everything you're doing on the beverage level and hot sauce level. I will say that there are, in between yourself and where I am, there has to be a buyer, or we would be working directly with each other. But those are some of the things that we need in this industry. If anybody else wants to know what they have to do in this industry and they can't get a license because they haven't farmed, or they don't have a research plan, or they got a DWI or possession charge or whatever that was 5 or 10 years ago, hey, opportunities. You got supply stores in our area. This is a big thing right now. Everybody has to order their stuff online. So what I'm saying is we have to also let people around us know that, hey, this is an industry. And what we're trying to do in our city is create a black enterprise. You know, hey, we need a supply store over here. Why don't you open up a supply chain in this area? Right. You know, so, you know, this is about building a black economy, a black commerce, a black enterprise. If we don't do that, then we're going to get stuck somewhere in this process. So that's just me looking forward and just, you know, throwing it out there for future conversations that we have so that we can set people up to be successful.
So if I could build on that real quick. Do you hear reverb, John?
Yeah, hold on. There we go. Go for it.
All right. So I think the brother who mentioned the hemp cigarettes in Virginia, right? I heard you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can take a picture of it and send it. They got it a sign right in front, now serving hemp cigarettes. I looked again and said, hemp cigarettes. See, in Virginia, like I said again, that it's a whole nother level of thinking here, the fear and all that other stuff attached to that. So to see that, I'm like, okay, that's obviously some type of confirmation or something.
That's right. That's right. Because I went to the grocery store yesterday and saw hemp milk. You know, they don't have soy milk and almond milk, but hemp milk in the little box is $5 for a box.
Wow.
Right. So, but I want to take you back to this, why you're so important and what you're saying is so important, as well as the brother talking about supply chain. When you're talking about bringing in an industry to an entire nation, we cannot be talking about just growing some hemp somewhere. What those white men told me in central Pennsylvania is that we will give you the urban ag sector. We don't want that. I said, excuse you? You're going to give me something? That's what I'm thinking. I'm not saying nothing. I'm the spook, right? I was like, oh, really? So why you don't want the urban ag? Because they don't understand, and Davita, this is where somebody like you is extremely important. They don't understand how to market why hemp matters to people who have the level of health disparities we have. So omega-3 and omega-6, the value of putting hemp into, you know, when you cook in some greens, you might want to squirt a little hemp oil in there. You might want to rub it into, you know, my grandmother's knees. You know, they haven't figured out that there's a reason why the plant may have particular use for us. So if we buying hemp cigarettes, it's a novelty. But what white folks are doing is they're bringing it in because it's an aging population in the United States, and it is a replacement for some of the nutrients that they're not getting out the regular food. So we need the supply chain. We need people to produce the products. We need the marketing people to tell the story. And I'm going to share with you, one of the things those white men took me to. So they tell me how they're buying a whole manufacturing company to bring to Pennsylvania. They want to sell me the hemp trains to distribute. They then took me to what's the pharmacy y'all have? We have Rite Aid, CVS, Walgreens, right? They took me to their version of one of those places that was fully stocked with hemp products. They said, we're not counting on just the production. We're going to put one of these hemp stores in every city in the United States, full of products. So they've got the supply chain. If they can't find the manufacturer, they're going to create their own. They're going to create their own, and took me to their 95,000 square foot manufacturing facility that was empty.
Wow.
and on top of that, where we're at here in Indiana, we're being approached by the hospitals who are now moving toward, Denise, what was the program that they have? It is prescription nutrition prescription. What would you say it was? Yeah, a pharmacy spelled with farm, F-A-R-M. Prescription pharmacy spelled F-A-R-M, pharmacy, where they understand now that with all the regulations and things that are coming out, that they are going to remove a lot of the pills and stuff that they got. So their thing is they're getting with farmers and things of that nature to be able to produce and grow certain things that they can prescribe to their patients to be able to come and get from the farmers and stuff in that manner. And so we've have dealing with Community Hospital, Eskenazi, and a few others that are approaching us on these matters, just wanting to do fillers with us and say, hey, how can we come and help you guys with the projects and stuff that you're doing, and see where we can go from there. So yeah, what you're saying is they recognize that with the hemp and things coming in, that this is going to be something that's going to cut into a lot of their pill making things, such as, needing stuff to help you to sleep or pain relievers and stuff of that nature. So they're looking at prescribing natural produce, whatever it may be, to be able to fill a prescription so that people can be healed. It's going to be more in the sense of the witch doctor type thing, where you go to the witch doctor and she brings a bunch of herbs and stuff together and mixes it in and say, hey, here's a little tincture for you that should heal whatever it is that you got. So it's going back to the natural part of things. So
Agreed.
Anybody else got anything to say? Hold on. Let me take Daytron off just to. If you got anything that you want to ask or say, Daytron, we're getting a lot of reverb from you when people speak, so that's why I'm needing reverb from you when people speak. So that's why
Yeah, I totally get it. Am I coming through clear?
You're clear. You're clear.
Okay, I got a conference call here in just a few minutes, but I want to say on the hemp cigarette thing, a lot of what's happening is the tobacco industry didn't pay their fee. They didn't pay their fee, and most of the hemp industry coming in, they just pretty much dominated Mitch McConnell and the senators. And now the tobacco industry, I do have a kick on that out in Texas. I've talked to a few people that are also getting ready to pop this thing off. And I can tell you right now, in about 10 years, when you walk in 7-Eleven, you're going to see nothing but hemp products on the shelf. The less people that grow tobacco, that hurts the tobacco industry. The more people that grow hemp, they're just going to shift everything to hemp. So you'll see different brands and different flavors, behind the shelf for industrial, for your floral and so forth. And that's just where it's going. And it may even be sooner than that, to be honest with you. So seeing that on the shelf, that's the future. That's one of the futures.
Okay. So let me mute you again. With that being said, question is, where do we go from here? And what is our next move? I know that I have a bad habit. Once I give you a nickname, it comes out. So I'm trying to move to Jamie instead of Dr. Jamie. But I'm gonna try to keep it in the front of my mind, Jamie. You said that you had a presentation that you would like to be able to present.
I can do that if you like.
Yeah. So I'm sure that those who are here that may be interested, we can set up something in the near future to be able to do that. I think that once we allow some of the others in our group to see the discussion of today, that you'll see a lot more people who are interested in what we're doing on the call, and a lot more strength. We like I said, we have quite a few groups that already deal with hemp and also with cannabis and things of that nature, as well as regular produce farmers. So I think that what we have and what we're looking at going, and what you're talking about right now is what we came up with from the very beginning. We didn't have an exact idea as to how it was going to work, but we said that we were going to stick together and plug along until we came up with a solution of how we can be able to work together and benefit one another. And it looks like, as in planting seeds, you plant a seed and it takes time for the fruit to come. So it looks like we're starting to see the fruit from our efforts at this point in time. And with that said, you know, I don't know how soon you can do your presentation. We have scheduled every other Thursday our normal meeting with our farmers and people in the health industry, because we have nutritional doctors and everything else that is also a part of our group, and that's at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
So do you want me to?
If you're available, and our next one will be it's not this Thursday, is it? We just had one last week, correct, Jetty? Yeah. Okay. So you give me the thumbs up. So we just had one last Thursday. So our next one will be the next Thursday from now, which I'm trying to see from my calendar what date that'll be. I think the 15th. If you want to then, or we can set up a special one this Thursday at 6 o'clock because, you know, like I said, we were trying to give people an opportunity to process what was being said and to move forward. But since we got something that's hot and on the thing.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Jamison?
Yes?
Next Thursday will be the 13th.
13th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That works for me.
So if that's fine, the Thursday the 13th, then we can set that up and we'll have that featured as our for our next meeting. Trust me, you think the group is lively here. That's going to be a good one. Normally our conversations, we try to keep it to about an hour. But here recently, as we've been moving up and progressing further, they're starting to expand a little bit more than an hour. We also in our group have a few people who are in the USDA in DC and with rural development that are part of our group that are our people. So they're looking at, they've been saying, hey, whatever it is that you guys need, we'll be more than happy to work with you. So we can put together the team that we need to be able to put this together and move it out across the nation. One of the things that I try to put out is this, and this is just a strategic thing from the way that I do things, that when I go and put stuff in writing as far as the public to see, mm-hmm. You know, I just go in general. But when, and I look at it like this, when McDonald's or Walmart or whoever, Ford, whoever it is, goes out there to do their work, whatever they put out, they already have in mind who they're going to benefit, who they're going to be working with. They don't come out and say, hey, I'm only working with white people, I'm only dealing with this people, and so on and so forth. But they'll sell to anybody. Right. And that's our thing is we want to be, we want to sell to anybody. So we're wanting to put our stuff out there to anybody, but we want to have in our mind that we're wanting to work together. We don't have all the positions filled by our people to be able to do that. So there might be certain areas where we'll have to contract outside of our group to get stuff done, but that's only to get somebody in our group, find someone within the group to fill that spot at a later date. Go ahead.
So can I ask you a question about how your group is currently structured? I'm completely have no knowledge. I understand that Boyce has this process for developing entrepreneurship and everybody's, putting into their teams. But does this team, is it structured as a co-op? Is there do you guys do a shared investment in your group? Like, what do you have right now that allows you to sustain the group? Or is it a volunteer information sharing group?
It's volunteer at this point in time. As a matter of fact, Davida and I have discussed, and we've discussed this as a group as a whole, as to what our core values are, what our targets are, and things of that nature. Because we didn't know how we were going to go about putting things together and how we were going to work it, we hadn't really solidified in writing how things were going to go. But now, as we see that, hey, this is going to be a core part of us working together, we're looking at putting it together more on a cooperative, co-op type manner, so that one, whoever's involved will be, you can be members and benefit from it that way. But then also those who participate can be able to receive their portion from whatever it is that they're participating in. And so as a farmer with the other cooperatives that we work with in Indianapolis, for example, we're part of 2 or 3 of them there, Big and Indiana Black Farmers. So we do what we call CSAs, where we provide boxes of food for different things. So,
ag, yeah, I know. Okay.
And so with that, everybody benefits the overall thing. So whatever small portion that we have there for the group overall to be able to pay for the insurances and all the stuff of the projects and stuff that we do, everybody benefits from that. And then also from whatever it is that you support in the thing. So if we have 200 shares of tomatoes, and I bring in 150 shares of the tomatoes that are needed, then I get that portion of the 150 shares that is allotted out to whoever brings that in. Whoever else brings the other part in gets that. And if somebody brings in 200 shares of cucumbers, whatever, they all get there for what they're bringing in the participation of it. But then we also benefit as a whole, because we allow a certain portion of that to go back to pay for the insurances, to pay for the licenses and things of that nature that we don't have to pay as individuals to be able to participate in these things. So that's kind of what I'm seeing that we can put together here to be able to run things in a similar type manner, even in this thing. So, with the work that you're doing, the work that Davita's doing, things of that nature, those can be different components and stuff. What we can allot part of the funds and stuff to be able to pay for that administrative part, the research part, and things of that nature. Because our thing is that, or I should say, my saying is, I don't work for free, and I don't expect you to either. And so our thing is that, for whatever it is that you're putting in, just as a producer, I'm putting in my produce. For whoever's putting in their work that is manual work, mental work, whatever it is, you should be allotted for the work that you do also. And so that's how we try to make it fair and even for everyone. So there's not anybody who's like, okay, well, I'm just taking all the stuff and everybody else is just out there. So so that's kind of what we're in the process of trying to put together now, with Davida being able to help us to secure resources. So even in what we're considering to do, part of what you're talking about, there's a ton of money out there that they've set aside in this new farm grant
Right.
that can benefit us in so many different ways, as far as education, putting together just these conglomerates to put together all the structure that we need. Now, it might be 4, 5, 10 different grants to do it, but it will give us what we need to be able to get it off the ground.
That was my last question.
Go ahead.
So what's the vehicle that you have to pull the research together? Because there were two things that came out of my thinking. One is that there's an opportunity working with Branch Farms, maybe as one of the lead, right?
Right.
This group is the lead, to put together regional presentations on industrial hemp supply chain, right? And run that across the United States to Black farmers.
Right.
So but what's the vehicle that would apply for that to get those funds? And that's what I'm saying, and I see the chef is waving his pen.
Locked and loaded, I'm ready, but I don't want to interrupt anybody.
Go ahead.
So that was the first one. And then the second thing is, if it's possible, what I'd like to do, when we all reconvene next week, I only want to focus on 3 things, John.
Okay.
And I always like to be clear, because my mind, I'll jump all over the place.
Right.
So if I say policies, production, and profitability, those are the 3 topic areas, the 3 Ps. What is the policy? What's the production? What's the profitability? And instead of me making just a presentation, I can sort of set the frame so we follow that conversation all the way to what vehicle do we need to have? Who's going to take the lead on which grants that are out there, so that people can pull the money in to operationalize some of this? Because that's the kind of organization I need to see at this point.
Okay, that's no problem. And as a matter of fact, I will get with you and share with you the SAR grant that I wrote up, so that you can see part of the process of how this works together and how everybody is able to this is how it runs. Because I'm telling you, I was sharing, I can't remember who I was sharing this with the other day, but for 7 years, I was in what I call solitary confinement. I was working at Toyota, and I was painting vehicles. So I had the little mask on. So for 10 hours a day, I couldn't talk to nobody, or anything. I'm in there just painting. So the whole time that I'm in there is, okay, how can we put things together? How can we make this stuff work? Basically your 3 Ps here. How do we put it together? How do we produce it? And how do we make it profitable? And then I also look at what are the things that hinder us from doing these things.
Right.
And so for 7 years, that's all I did. The whole time in there while I'm painting was strategizing on how to get this done. So understand, I did my first grant as just a test to see, okay, will they buy this and will this work? And so that's where I'm at right now. I just received the grant back in April of this year. So we're working it out right now. And so, but trust me, there's a method to the madness, and it will.
I believe you.
It will run. And so when I see, with the Vita coming on, and the thing, my main thing is that I just tell everybody, I'm not here to run your business. I'm here to, my ability is to see where you work the best at, and then create a path for you to be able to excel and be able to do your work the best that you can, that can be beneficial to not just yourself, but the group as a whole. And so
you have a nonprofit that you ran it through, or you partnered with an institution to run your SAR through? How did you run through? Because I'm trying to decide. I have Think and Grow as a for-profit.
Right.
My Creative Tech Works is a nonprofit, and I have a research university that I can run stuff through if I needed to. So that's what I'm saying. Which way you want to go?
I go everywhere. As my aunt told me, utilize all your resources. So I use all of them. We partner with different churches and organizations. We use 4-H. We use all of that. All of that is a part of what we do. And the thing is that we control all of that. We put it under our business, which is is Legacy Taste of the Garden. The name of the group is Legacy Farming. What is it? Legacy.
No, you did not say what is it called.
You have to excuse me. I just had surgery, so I'm still trying to shake off the meds from last week. So a few things throw me off. But anyhow, that's one. Is the name of it. But anyhow, it has it on there. But the thing is that it shows how we work with other farmers. It shows how we work with other organizations. It shows how we are doing training, how we use chefs, nutritionalists, and things of that nature. And the thing is to bring them all in. And once they see that you're bringing it in, and I'm not the only one who's getting paid, but the money's being dispersed out, then I got probably one of the highest awards. So they look for the collaborations of working together. So I don't push it as far as it being all black, but I use their keywords such as food deserts,
right.
Things of those natures. I put all those little keywords and stuff that they want to hear in there, and tell them how in the process of doing these things, what we did, we got with 3 or 4 different growers who, like I said, one, they have their own certification of naturally grown that the USDA has
recognized,
and given them their own certification that they even consider to be a higher certification than organic.
Wow.
So we're teaching our youth and things of that nature how this process works and how to grow stuff at this level. So at the level that you're talking about, you're wanting to have one of the highest levels. That's part of what we're doing. We have, like I said here, we have the hoop house. We got basically 3 of them right now that we're working with, and we've got a couple more that we're in the process of putting up. In Evansville, we're just doing a regular garden out there. And we have individuals who are doing that are doing theirs in an organic type of manner. We take the kids and basically have them to report on what they're doing. And at the end of the thing, we bring them all here to Lao Station, and they will be doing a report from each of the different groups as to what they grew, what their products are like. We'll let them do a taste of each one's stuff, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, I think it's pretty good, well thought out, and it worked. So I think that the same concept, not that it has to be exact to that science, but because we have different areas and angles that we can go from, but the same methodology, I should say, should be able to work and be successful with this also.
I love it.
All right, Davida, you got anything to say? You look like you had that sparkle in your eye, like you like, or something I was wanting to say.
No, actually I didn't, but I did want to just acknowledge, not that my affirmation is needed at all. I'm just a help worker beaver, helper. But based on your insight into methodology and the science of farming has really sparked a major interest in my mind, since I am a resource developer. So, the making of some really fabulous requests can be centered around. Also, when I came to the group not that long ago, one of my questions was about securing the future success of the group. That I felt that there would be an assault, since we are actually coming against pharmaceutical methods and all types of. Anyway, we don't want to say a lot of things over the line, but the biosecurity piece just kind of blew me away. The education that I just received, I know it's not a real education, but considering I was totally ignorant, I didn't even know the word biosecurity existed. So I'm just wow. It's just a wow moment for me. So a lot of the pieces came together for me in this conversation, John. Just want you to know, and Darrell, that some of the gaps really filled in for me.
Okay. Anybody else got anything that they'd like to say?
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
Could we repeat the 3 P's again, Jamie? I have positivity, profitability. What was the third one?
It's policy, production, and profitability.
Policy. Okay, production, profitability. Thank you.
All from a positive frame of reference. So we'll throw your P in there too.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Gabriel, you got anything?
I'll just say that I'm eagerly anticipating Thursday's meeting.
Okay. Okay. Now we're not doing it this Thursday, right? It's the following Thursday, just to be.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll be thinking about Thursday's meeting for the whole week.
Okay. Just for clarity. All right. With that being said, all right, Darrell.
One more. So I'm just pitching this out here, okay? And my specialty is in recipe development, and I do seminars, workshops, even kidpreneur programs. Everything's done on PowerPoint presentation slides to educate how the kidpreneurs is more about kids entrepreneurship, but the recipe development is strictly to teach people the step-by-step process of putting it from a thought to the kitchen to the bottle. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that some of the things that caught my attention is, one, I'm already a licensed manufacturer here. I'm actually leasing a test kitchen, but I know this is so big at the point it's ownership. So I am a recipe developer. So I have recipes and concepts where we can add these products to the CBD oil and the hemp and release it under a whole separate brand. That's one concept. Or the next one, who could I speak to? Because if it moves a little slow, I'm not saying we're slow, but I'm prepared to get some orders of hemp or CBD oil, get educated, and start it in my test batches and release it out there. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I'm
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, because it's extremely important what you're talking about. The foundations that I've been speaking to around the country are very, very interested in Black entrepreneurship. We have the number of Black businesses that are dying. The businesses in general across the country are dying faster than the startups for the first time in history. So they want to fund your kidpreneur idea. Now, where the money is right now, and I'm fully transparent about it, there's some money in USDA. There's also money in EDA. The Economic Development Administration wants to figure out how to support business startups because the country's debt is so large. They cannot expect, white folks cannot hire all of us. So they need more businesses to start up or expand. So I would just say those 2 places are the first 2 places that by next Thursday, we should have it in our mind, a concept of pitching from the grow to the next generation business startup, and ag tech is huge. So again, my area of specialty is to infuse engineering and computer science into agriculture with specific seeds. So we all have different strengths we're bringing to the table. But I know that EDA is where we want to go with somebody like you who says, listen, I have the ability to white label some stuff. I can produce it and then send it across the country and people can put their own label on it, but I'm the manufacturer. Right? And EDA is interested in those cooperative types of opportunities. That's why, John, I'm so happy when you said that, because it's not someplace we would normally look to go to, but they have strategic planning funds out there for this kind of work.
Right.
So, and then the foundations want to invest in the scale up of what you're talking about for kids across the country.
Right. It's something phenomenal. I'll just say it that way. It is not just your average PowerPoints. I'm talking about kids, just speaking about the kidpreneurs in particular. It's maybe 80 slides, but I have video presentations of Ben Pasternak, how they make millions off apps. And then you got a black little girl made candles and Be Sweet Lemonade. And then it basically brings it home to them of entrepreneurship. And that's just the kidpreneur programs. But the one that's really taking off is the Developing Recipes God's Way. I actually have scripture-based PowerPoints, how Patty LaBelle made $3.5 million in 2 days off pies, and why can't you make $3.5 million off your pies? And this is how the Chef Joseph's Kick Sauce Company can help you. Seminars and workshops, to teach that part, because even Dr. Claude, I'm saying it, and I'll say it to the day I die, I was sitting in the back of the screen. He was talking about, why don't our people have recipes and cookbooks? And I'm raising my hand behind the screen like, y'all just ain't met me yet,
Right.
Because that is the whole component. You know how many people I meet here in the first state, I'll leave it that way, that's supposed to have been enslaved with recipes from 1940, and out of fear, they're scared to step into it. So what is that fear? And we talk about that fear and how we can help them. So that's just where I'm at with this whole thing. I'm not the grant piece to put that together, but if you need public speakers or someone to come in to teach recipe development or kidpreneurs, then I'm open to that. And at the same time, I have a couple barbecue sauces, and actually I can start my own line of drinks with ginger and alkaline and add some CBD oil to that thing and let it rip. But I don't want to do that here because of the mentality and the bureaucracy, etc. So it would be more of I'm open to a partnership outside of here.
Outside of Virginia?
Outside of Virginia, yeah. That's just that's it.
But Alexandria is so pretty. I was just there.
No, Virginia Beach.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wow. Look, I'm in Philly, going to the Clan Country in the middle of the state. I ain't got nothing to say. They call Pennsylvania Pennsatucky. Okay, so we in the same state.
I'm next to Kentucky. You don't want to be in Kentucky.
Look, so I would just be very encouraged. I think with the right strategic thinking and aligning our stuff so we can execute. Because I'm big on project planning. Okay, like in the next 6 months, after this call, 6 months from now, where do we want to be?
Right.
So the brother from Son of Godzilla, I want you to know that I'm interested in knowing whether or not the brother figured out how to partner with Gabriel to set up a homemade growing aquaponic system. I need to see that kind of progress, because that feeds my ability to keep bringing information in, right? That I see people are taking stuff. Because what you're working on growing is so critical. We can't move off the food. We've got to have food, but we got to do it in a way that you can do both. And I need you to get the skills in aquaponics. There is no way that if these white boys said take over the urban market and they knew it was going to be aquaponic based, because they don't want to put up the money for that. They want to put up all their money on processing this stuff. So I just want us all to get these skills to grow inside. That should be just a standard requirement of anybody who's growing. So I know that you've been quiet for so long, and I'm always nervous when somebody's just quiet. So I just wanted to shout out, your work is important.
You don't want to get him started. Go ahead.
I'm quiet because I'm like everybody else. I'm feeling good now. This is great. This is like, that's all I can say. But I've been actually growing hydroponically for the last 10 years now with the cannabis. Just in aquaponics, without aquaponics, but I've been venturing into that too. I've been doing all the reading, bought a course, and Gabriel, I've been talking. I'm still waiting for him to come out here because I told him that's what we want to do. We want to do trip even. But
I'm gonna send you
Gabriel, come on.
Okay, I'll send you a link to the brother who has an aquaponics school. There's so much stuff out there on aquaponics that, Gabriel, you're our subject matter expert. But for real, what's the best caliber seed that we can produce and control that produces the highest percentage for if you're going to be in that CBD manufacturing? Like I said, 3 crops, you guys, with the lowest amount of water usage that we can figure out to be sustainable, that we can use these 3 different crops to generate revenue, to fund what we're doing, to save our families and to buy the farms back.
Right.
We should be buying buy the land back. If we got to buy land rural and then buy the land inside these cities, we got to buy the land back. Because I think that's what nobody's expecting. They're expecting us to do children's programs on my part, basic research, You know, they don't expect Chef Joseph's IP to be patented so that we can, you know, we can send that across the world. I'm not just talking about across the United States. I need y'all to know the people coming into me, the United Arab Emirates were here to learn about how we're doing. You know, it's not just Nigeria. I have startups in Belize, right? Ghana, South Africa. So what I'm talking about is urban ag, transferring as much as we can to urban ag, using our rural as our outdoor grow. We got to have both. And then we got to produce the stuff and we got to protect our IP. So we got a lot to do, but it's not impossible. It's just organizing it.
Yeah, and that's it. That's it. Just putting it in organization. Like I said, I will get with you and Davida and my wife Denise, and we'll begin to bring together some of the things that we've already put together as far as these events and the way that we see that things are things that we've seen that are successful in what we're doing as far as agriculture, and then utilize you guys and the expertise that you guys have and see how we can maneuver this to be able to go national and global.
I gotta go. I was supposed to be on a conference call 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem, no problem. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and close this. I will send out the link for the meeting on a week from Thursday, and we'll push forward from there. So thank you everybody. And if you could, Jamie, send me your email address, text that to me at some point in time, and we can.
I sent you the email already.
You did? Okay.
I'll send you another one. I'll send you my my LinkedIn profile. I know you asked for a bio, so.
Okay, no problem.
I'll send it to you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks for joining us. All right.
Take care.